Okay, so in my last class, I have discussed about the creation of declaration of classes and creation of objects, and then we have seen one program that how to access the class members, data members, and member functions through the objects. So for explanation, I have taken one more example today also, that is to create uh, a class called student, which will be having the following members, that is name of the student,
Ma'am,
mark.
ma'am, your
Huh?
voice is cracking, ma'am.
My voice is cracking, it's not coming now. Hello.
It's fine, ma'am.
You're audible, ma'am.
Okay,
It's fine.
so okay, so we want to if we want to create a class called student, which is having the following members, that is name of the student, marks of the student, and some functions to assign the initial values, to compute the total and average, and to display all the data. So this is the program that I have written. So this is the program I have written. So here I have taken three variables: character, one character array, one array for marks, and uh, one variable called sum to calculate the sum. Okay, and next I am here in this get data function. Three functions are there: get data function, average, and display. So in the get data function, this get data function is used to take the values from keyboard. So it is it is saying that enter name, then name, and enter marks for 5 subjects. And with the for loop, I'm just taking the marks for 5 subjects, and sum we are initializing as 0. And in the average, all the functions, all the member functions are defined inside the class declaration itself. So get data is, this is the definition of get data. Next comes the definition of average. In that we are just calculating the average of these 5 marks, and display is to display all the name, marks, and the sum and average of those marks. So here I have created, in main I have created one object called stu. Student is one object, and stu is stu dot get data means it is
Hello,
calling.
ma'am.
Hello. Yes.
Ma'am, in the void average function,
Hmm.
sum divided by is equal to 5 will be out of the loop, ma'am.
Sum divided by 5 is, yes, it should be out of the loop. It should be out of
Ma'am,
the loop.
ma'am, curly braces is not there, so I'm confused there.
Curly braces is not required. It should be out of the loop,
Okay, ma'am.
because after for loop you are not, after for loop you are, if you are not writing the braces, that means it will take only one statement. Okay, so in sum, what actually I am doing, I am taking all the marks, 5 marks, and doing the sum. And so this sum means sum divided by 5. Sum divided by equals to 5 means sum divided by 5. So so actually it should be average. I have not used one more variable. I have just done the average with this sum variable itself. So it is out of the loop. It is not
Mm,
inside the loop.
if we not use curly braces, then by default value is one statement.
What?
Means if we not use curly braces, then only one statement will be executed in the for loop.
Why? No, all the statement will be executed. This is the rule for loop. If you are writing something in the for loop, something you are writing in the for loop, and you means if you are not giving curly braces, it will just execute only one statement, one instruction after for loop, and other instruction will be normal. I have not indented it, but this for loop will executed for this one for 5 times, 0 to 4. Why won't it be executed only once?
Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am.
No, I think you have forgotten the rule related to for loop. If you are writing something in the for
No, ma'am.
loop,
No, ma'am. I have missed that. I think that semicolon is there for loop.
semicolon is
Sorry,
there
ma'am.
means?
No, means
Huh?
after for in the I plus plus and there is a small bracket and saw that mistakenly I saw that there is a semicolon after the for
No,
loop.
no, no,
Not
no, no.
there.
There is no
Yes.
semicolon. There is no semicolon here.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I forget to indent it. Otherwise, it will be more readable. Okay. So this is now whenever we call this student dot get data. So for STU, the variables will be created, that is name, a name, marks, and sum, etc. And then whenever we put some value using put data, it will sorry using get data, it will take the values. So whenever we are calling stu dot get data, so all the stu dot name, stu dot marks, stu dot sum and average will be calculated, will be taken. And then all this average, all this display, all this function, whenever you use any object to call any function, that object will be considered for the data members also. Okay, so that I have already discussed. So let me show you how it is executing. Yes. So this is how it is executing. I have just copied the same program here. So it is asking to enter name. So I'm entering some name and entering marks for 5 subjects. So it is giving the name, the marks and the average. So just normal functions, member functions and data members. Just we are taking the data member values from keyboard and also we are printing them, and we are doing this thing using objects. So the same thing can be done without object also, but we are doing this thing using object. So this is the procedure by which you can create objects. So in place of stu, if you can create one more variable, so you can create one more object. If you want to create say s1, okay, so here also if you call s1 dot get data, then also it will work like it is so I do this thing. Please switch off your microphones. So if I switch off your microphone, someone's microphone is on. So if I write down this thing, enter the values now. Say for simplicity, for readability, I am entering similar values and switch off your microphone. So it is just giving for the second object also. Just in that manner, you can create any number of objects, and all the objects will be using the same. Please switch off your microphone. Saurabh Kumar Roy. So yes. So this is So this is and this is the way you can create any number of objects, but every object will be calling the same member function. That is, only one copy of the member function will be created in the memory. One more example I have listed here to show you that the member function can also pass different uh, arguments. Okay, any arguments they can pass. Just to simplify this thing, I have created one class called car, and I have taken only one function, public function, that is int speed and int max speed. Okay, so here I am just passing the value of max speed and returning the value. Okay, so in the car my object, I am passing the value to 200. Okay, and when I'm calling this speed function, this 200 is passed with my object dot my max speed, and it is showing this one. Just simply we can pass the objects, we can pass the values, we can return values. So this is passing and returning values from any member function. Okay, so the simply we can do it like the normal function we do. The same manner, same rules will be applied here also. Okay, the function passing arguments and returning arguments. Okay, okay, one I think I have listed some more examples. Just you go through this. There is one more example called a bank account, which will be taking the account holder's name, then account number, account type, S for saving and C for current amount, etc. And there are some functions to initialize the data, deposit money, withdrawal of money, and to display all the data. Okay, so based on the question, we will be creating the number of data members and number of member functions. So here, this is the solution of this problem. I have created. Uh, you see the main first. You see the main function. So in main function, I have created one object of account. So this is account. This is account class account. In this we have created the account holder's name, and this is account number, account type, and balance. And then we have initialized some functions like the initialize function, deposit, withdraw, and display. Okay, so next is in main we have created this account object a, and we are calling a dot initialize. So when we are calling a dot initialize, so the control will go to this initialize function, and initialize will ask to enter name, then account number, and then it will ask to enter the account type, etc. Okay, so and also it will ask to enter you the amount to be deposited, or amount initial balance amount. Okay, and this uh, we have just checked for whether the balance is less than 1000 or not, then it will not work. Okay, so you just go through the example, and in this example I have tried to create one menu. In this menu there are there are options like one will be chosen to deposit, two will be chosen to withdraw, three will be displaying, and four will be exit. So here actually we are doing this thing with the menu switch case statement. So a dot display, a dot deposit we are calling, a dot display withdrawal, a dot display, and return, this fourth is return 0. So I have not compiled this thing. I have just written the code. You try to compile this program and run it. Okay, you try to solve what are the problems in that program. I have just given you one code. Okay, next is yes, this one. So uh, till now I have shown you some of the programs. So from here you can see this program, and you can identify some of the problems, that is some of the errors in this. So can you find it, some of the errors? Syntactical errors, only syntactical errors, not logical. That means grammatical errors. Yes.
Ma'am, in the C out portion, ma'am, the cost should have a double, like the arrows before cost, the second cost are wrong, ma'am. In the last C out.
This one.
Yes, ma'am. It should be double,
Hmm.
ma'am.
Hmm. Any other problem?
I mean,
Yes.
one is
And
written.
the line above there is a missing semicolon.
Yes.
And
In
one is written.
yes, this one is
And
correct.
in the
Model
COUT
number.
small letters, lowercase.
C out should be small letter, lowercase. Okay. Next.
Even
After
model
the
name.
function void
Function void set
show
part.
part that semicolon after the function at the last of the function.
Void show part.
That at the last of the function, last second rest, there is a
This one.
semicolon. Yes, ma'am.
Huh.
That's for the class too.
This is
That
for the class. This is the end brace for this
okay. Okay.
show part.
Sorry.
I mean the function void
Ma'am,
set
and
part.
one is
The brackets will be a bit away from the starting line,
This
starting
one.
position.
This
Yes,
one.
ma'am.
Okay. That indentation you are telling about.
Indentation. Yes.
Okay. And what
Ma'am,
about
in
and
the
this
one is
C,
this
written.
quotes?
in the void show
And
part
one.
in next C out after endl there will be a semicolon.
No, that is not required. But this particular thing, like the quotes you see, these are all in the same direction. It should be in the opposite direction. Quotes. Okay, that is one. Another thing is that we have taken model NUM as the as one of the data member, but here I have used module in MIM. So you need to means you need to be cautious whenever we'll be writing the program. So I have highlighted these things. Return 0 is missing, int is missing. Okay, and in case of this p1 p2, this should be p1 or p2. It is written pl. Okay, so you just see the differences. So sometimes some compilers are using namespace std, so it is not a actually an error, but sometimes it is required. And these are the different things that normally we used to yeah, normally we do some error in the code, like cost equals to, this should be c, not e. C, we have taken c, not e. Okay, so and
Hello, ma'am.
endl endl, this should be end l, not one. Okay, yes. There should be
Ma'am.
one more means angle brace for this, huh? Yes.
Hello, ma'am. I was saying that if return 0 is missing, then it's a syntactical error or not?
It's a syntactical error for C++ compilers.
Okay, ma'am.
We'll be using C++ compiler. We'll be writing C++ code. The grammatical, this is a grammar and this is a rule to pass, rule to use integer with the main function. That is the return type of main should be integer, and to validate that we need to write down this return 0. So this return 0 actually the exit code which says you that you are this is you are doing this is correct. Okay, the code doesn't have any error. Okay, so and it is fully. So syntactical errors means the grammatical errors, rules related errors. That's why I mentioned only the syntactical errors, not any logical thing. Okay, so this you should be means cautious enough to write down the code. So next is uh, another thing that is called nesting of member function. So the like we do in normally in C, that we can call one from function from another inside another function. So that the same thing can be done in C++ in object-oriented programming also. A member function can be called inside another member function of the same class. Okay, so I have included here a very small example. So here I have created one class called set and declared two data members m and n and three member functions, that is input, input display, void display and int large. Okay, three functions. So in the input we are asking, so I have written outside the class declaration this, I have defined input function, I have defined all the other functions. Okay, so in the input I am asking to enter m and n, and I'm taking this value from keyboard. And then in the display I am just displaying this value large. Okay, and when I am displaying this value large, so large, this particular text will be printed as it is, and in place after this the value will be printed from this function. So from display, actually we are calling this function large. Inside display function we are calling this function large. So here comes the nesting of function. So we are calling large, and large will be executed. Large will be just returning the value which is maximum between m and n. Okay, so it is just checking whether m is greater than n, then it will be returning otherwise it will be returning n. So here in the large, here it will be displayed between m and n, which one is having the large value, it will be displayed here. Okay,
Ma'am,
so in
can
n,
we
huh?
can we call a public member function in another class?
Public member function in another
Uh,
class.
yes.
That means we'll be having more than one class, and I want to call the member function of one class from another class.
Yes, ma'am.
You tell me whether it is possible or not. Can we call member function without creation of any object?
No, ma'am.
I'm saying after creating object, ma'am.
After creating object, whenever you create any object of any class. Okay, like say we are here one class is set. Okay, say it is set 1. Another class I am creating called set 2. Okay, now you have created one object called say there are two classes. Say this is set 1, and say one more class is there called set 2. Okay, set 2 is having say some variables a, b, and say some function display. Okay, so this is the definition of set 2. Now your question is whether we can call this display or this display. This is one question. This may be one question. Okay, and your question is whether we can call maybe this input function of this set 1 by this set 2 class. Isn't it? This is your question, na?
Yes, ma'am.
So uh, to call this input function, how can we call it? By creation of object. So we can create object of set 1, that is object 1, and say set 2, that is object 2. Okay, these are the objects of, this is object of set 1 and this is object of set 2. Correct. Now if you want to call this input, you can call only by this object 1 with object 1 dot input. And if you want to do this thing like object 2 dot input, input is not in the scope of object 2. Input is not there. Object 2 is of this set 2 type. This particular variable, this particular object is of this class type. So input doesn't belong to this class. Input function doesn't belong to set 2 class. It belongs to set 1. So you can call it using object 1 only. And now my question, if there is any confusion related to this display, say this display and this display, both are having function display. Again, whenever you use object1 dot display, it signifies that you want to use the display of this particular class set 1, because object 1 belongs to set 1. And whenever you write object 2 dot display, that means we are calling this particular display which belongs to set 2, because object 2 is of type set 2. You got my point?
Yes, ma'am.
Object 2, using object 2, you cannot call input function, because object 2 is not of type set 1. Set 1 input function is defined in set 1. It is the function, member function of set 1. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So next is okay. Here in main, just we are calling a, and a dot input is calling this input function, entering m and n. Say we are entering say 10 or 20, and then in the display, while we call display again will call this large function which returns the value, or large value, means which one is large between m and n. It will calculate and return that value. Okay. So this is a procedure of by which we can call a member function from another member function within the same class. Okay. Now, if we declare some of the member function as private, so till now we have defined all the member function normally in the public section. Now, if we want to declare something as private, okay, sometimes it is required in some situation. It is required like tasks such as deleting an account in a customer file or providing increment to the employees. Okay, and maybe some security matters related to banking. Okay, so sometimes it is required to be means to do the access with some restrictions. Okay, so that time if I want to calculate something, or if I want to process something through a function which deals with the private data, and we can place those functions also in the private section depending on the use. Okay, so consider a scenario if we need to use, if you need to declare the function within this private. So that time we can use this nesting of member function, this technique, to access those member functions. So if something is defined in this public section, some function is defined in this public section, so that function can be called from this any function from outside this means sorry, inside the main from public section. Some function is written in the public section that that function can access all the private data members as well as the private member functions. So sometimes it is required to have private member functions, or member functions can be called by another function that is a member of its class. Okay, so concept of nesting will be used here.
Ma'am,
And the
Ma'am, so a private function can only be called inside another function if that function is a public function itself.
yes, yes, the
Which
same thing
means
means if I change this one, say just a second. Yeah, if I change this one as this code as say this one, and if I write it down here, okay, if I write it down here, then also it will work, because here these two functions are, this display is a private public function and display can call large. Okay,
okay, ma'am.
simple, just the simple thing, like you are in taking care of this AMN through all the functions that are written in public. Similarly, there must be some function in public which can indirectly call this function. That is, we will be calling this function indirectly through some other function which is defined in the public section. Okay, so sometimes it is required to have private member functions. At that time, we will be doing in that way. So this is
ma'am,
in this example. Yes.
If we declare a member function outside the class, by default, it is considered public, right?
Outside the class,
Yes, ma'am.
declare or define?
Define.
No, define. You need to declare it first inside the class. Then only you can define it outside the class. But it is not true. What you are telling, whenever we are defining this all this function, we are defining outside the class. Okay, but it doesn't mean that they all become public. It doesn't mean. Only if you are declaring them inside the public section. There are two sections in the class. In the class declaration, there are two sections, two clear sections. In the class declaration, there are two clear sections. This one, private and public. So in the private section, you can declare variables as well as functions. And in the public section, you can declare variables as well as functions. Now, while you define this declaration, now while we define these definitions, okay, you can define it inside or outside. Inside class or out means in the same place of declaration you can define them, but that doesn't mean their scope will be changed. They become public. If you write down everything outside, they don't become public. It depends on where you are declaring them. Okay, so here in this example, if I write down something here and then I'm defining it outside the class, that doesn't mean it becomes public. From private to public, it always remains private function because it is written in the with the private access specifier. Means something I have not specified here private, but if you are not specifying anything, by default they are private. So if something is written inside private access specifier, this zone, that means they are private. And if something is written with public, that means they are public. Okay. Even if you are defining this here input, if you define this inside or outside, they will be public because they are defined in the public section. And even if you are defining this outside, they remain in the private section. That these two things are different, totally different. Okay. Now clear this concept?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so access specifiers we need to remember which one is defined where. Okay, which object is defined where. So now this this read and write, if S is an object of sample, this class sample, then if I write S dot read, so this is illegal. Normally means normally we whenever we want to uh, access the variables that is defined in the public section, private section, that is also illegal. Like if I want to access s dot m equals to 20, that is also illegal. It means we cannot access them from main or from outside the class. Directly we cannot access them. So for functions, there is one process to access them. So for functions that are written inside the private access specifier, we can have some another function that is written in public section, which we can call. So here we can include one update function, which will call this one. Okay, so it can call directly. No object is required. Like here, the large function is called directly. No object is required. Like a normal function. Is there any confusion? You tell me. Okay, next I'm going to the next topic, that is array with classes. So we can have arrays inside the class as a member variable in a class, and we can also have array of objects. Okay, so arrays, you have already, I have shown you some of the examples where you have seen this one. That is, we can have some character arrays, we can have some other arrays like marks. That example of marks, I can take 5 marks in an array. So you can use arrays as member variables within the class, as well as you can create arrays of object. So here I have created arrays of object. See, I have created 5 employee object. So other than creating employee 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, in that we are just creating an object array. Okay, so means any number of objects can be there in the array. So here I have just written 5. So there are array of 5 objects. Okay, so here I have included one more example. So where you can see this one. This is a class called employee. Let me maximize it. Class called employee. Then the private data members are name, age, salary, and public data members, member functions are get data and put data. Simply with get data, we are asking the values from the keyboard for name, age, and salary. And for put data, we are just displaying their values. Okay. So for simplicity, I have tried to keep two functions, one for initializing all the data members and other for displaying all the data members. Okay, so these two things remain same in almost all the programs. Okay, and just I have created here employee of five employee object named with foreman and 5 employee object named with engineer. Okay, so for the foremans we are taking the get data, we are asking the get data function to input all the foreman's name, age, and salary. Okay, so with a for loop, we can iterate the for loop to ask for. So first one, the first foreman, that is foreman 0, the object 0, object 1, in that manner 5 objects will be getting initialized and 5 objects will be displayed. Similarly for engineers also 5 objects will be getting initialized and 5 will be displayed. Okay, just I have created 2 objects, array of objects, to make you understand. Okay, like we create normal arrays with integers, we can also create the array of objects. That is, we actually, our aim is to use these user defined data types. That is, we want to use these classes that we have defined or the objects that we have created as normal data type, like the built-in data types. So in the built-in data type, we can create objects of different variables. So here also we can create objects of this type, of class type. Okay, array of objects of class type. So here we have created this one. Okay, so also these objects can be passed as function arguments, can be passed, and as well as they can be returned as function arguments. Okay, I have just written down here one small example. Though I have not compiled it, just try to understand this one. So class height, in this class height, I have just taken 2 variables, data members, feet and inches, and 3 member functions. That is, one is get ht, which is taking these values, passing these values f and I, and f is getting initialized to feet and I is inches. So we are passing these 2 values through this get height, but you can have a get data type function where you can ask from the keyboard to enter the values for feet and inches, and put height is just to display it. So it will be displaying the height is this much of feet and this much of inches. In that manner it should display. So that's why the display I have designed in this way. So this new line height is up to this, it will be as it is displayed, and then the value of feet will be displayed, and after feet this text feet will be displayed, and inches, and this text inches will be displayed. Okay, and in the sum, so sum function we are coming after we let us see the main function, then we'll be coming back to the sum function. So here I have created 3 objects, h, d, and a. Okay, so for h I have passed 6 and 5. For a I have passed 2 and 7. So whenever we call h dot get ht 6 5, so h dot get ht will be called. So h dot feet and h dot inches will be initialized with 6 and 5. So 6 and 5. Similarly, whenever we call this thing with a, so a dot height will be 2 feet, and a dot inches will be 7 inches. Okay, and next we are just displaying their age and a their values through put height. So just height 6 feet 5 inches, 2 feet 7 inches are displayed, and after that we are just calling this thing with d dot sum, and we are passing age and a. Okay, so d is another object we are passing, we are calling d dot sum and passing age and a. Okay, so age and a are the object of this the same class, we are passing these two. So now let us see the definition of this sum function. Sum is another function. Okay, so in the sum function, uh, height a and height b, so these two are the, we are passing objects. So to catch the object we need to define their data types. In normal functions we used to define the data type of whatever we are passing here. So here we are passing age and a, which is of class type. Class type means their data type is height, their data type is height. Okay, so that's why I have written here height a and height b. Okay, so height a means this within this object a, this age will be mapped, and within this object b this a will be mapped. Okay, so here just we have added this to this a dot fit plus b dot fit. That means a dot fit and b dot fit means age dot fit and a dot fit. Okay, like we have passed age and a, age and a. Okay, so don't confuse with this a and this a. Okay, so let I'm changing this thing so that it will be easy for you to understand. So let this is p. Okay, so p and p. So h and p we are passing, h and p we are passing. So sorry, this will be also p. Okay, so h and p we are passing. Okay, so uh, h is mapped to a, and its type is also matching because h is of type height, class type object. Which is of class type object height. So height a. So in a, h will be mapped. In b, p will be mapped. So whenever we write down a dot fit, that means that signifies h dot fit. Similarly for b dot fit, it signifies actually p dot fit. So the values will be added and it will be stored in a temporary object variable n dot fit. Similarly n dot inches. Just I have checked that whether n dot inches is greater equals to 12 or not, then I have increased the feet by 1 and decreased the inches by 12. Okay, and we are just displaying it. So this in this program, what actually I want to say, that whenever you pass anything, pass any object in a program, okay, so that time you need to mention its data type wherever you define it. Like normal function definition, you need to define everything is same, just we are passing an object. No complexity is there in this. Okay, so you try to do one thing, you try to, this is one assignment also, you try to write down a function, member function that will pass object as well as that can return some object. Okay, just a simple function, you pass the object and return the object. Okay, return the value and display it. Okay, so this is one assignment for you. Okay, next is I am going to discuss a very interesting function, that is friend function. So I have mentioned that there are several different functions in object-oriented programming. That is the main function, then the member functions, then the inline functions. Okay, so friend function and virtual functions are that time I have not discussed friend function and virtual function. Okay, so this function is having several special uses. Okay, I am going to discuss one special use today. Okay, along with its character. But whenever you study polymorphism, whenever you study inheritance, okay, so that time inheritance, not only inheritance, sorry, operator overloading, polymorphism, etc. So that time you'll find some more uses of friend function and some of the situations where friend function are absolutely necessary. Okay, so today I'll be just introducing the friend function and telling what are its different characteristics. Okay, so whenever we again and again study this friend function and its use in multiple situations, that time you need to remember all these all of its characteristics. Okay, so friend function is having a special use like I have told. So if there is a situation where you need to access the private member outside the class. So someone of you have already asked me whether I can access the private members or whether I can access the member functions outside the class, how to access them. Okay, so sometimes it is required to access the private members outside the class. Okay, so if this kind of situation occurs where two classes are there and you need to compare between two data members from the two classes, two private data members from two classes, or if we want to do not only some comparison but also some processing, some calculations, other calculations by taking the data members from two or three classes. So is it possible? So like I have told in the last example that if you want to access anything, you need to create the object and then only you can access the data member or the member function. Okay, but if this thing happens that you need to access them, how we will be doing that? So friend function actually facilitates that particular situation. Okay, so it is a common function for both the classes. That's why it is known as friend. That means it is friendly to both the classes. So it is a common function to both the classes which can access the private data of both classes. Okay, so friend function is not a member function of the class. So only the member function only can be called with the objects. Okay, so as friend function is not a member of the class, so it is not called using objects. It can be called as a normal function. It is not called using the objects. So if something is written, some function is written with the keyword friend, that will be considered by the compiler as a friend function which do not require any object to be called. Okay, and it is having some special features also. The friend function, they can be defined anywhere in your C++ program, whether inside main or inside class declaration or outside class definition, anywhere. Okay, so this is a sample program. Is a very small program that that shows the use of friend function. Okay, so the friend function definition does not use this keyword friend, the or the scope resolution operator, because sometime whenever you write down something within this using this scope resolution, that means it defines the scope of that particular function. So whenever we write down some function with the scope operator and class name, actually what we usually do this to define the scope of that member function. But friend function is not a member function. First rule. Okay, so it doesn't it is not required to define the friend function using scope resolution operator, and no keyword friend will be used during the definition. But for the declaration, the keyword friend will be used. So here you can see one class sample, two data members are there, and two public in the public section we have defined one member function. So this is the member function. Okay, and which is having a equals to 10, which is just initializing a equals to 10 and b equals to 20. And this mean function, this is actually a friend function. Okay, so this is the declaration of friend function. So you can declare it anywhere in your C++ section. This friend function declaration always contains this keyword friend. So the keyword friend, it will start with this keyword friend, which signifies it is a friend function, then its return type, then the function name and the argument list. Now here this argument, you can see this is the object of this class sample. Okay, so friend function, another rule is friend function always passes object of the class, okay, to which it wants to access the data members. So it is passing the object of this class. So in sample, so in this is the definition. So you can see in the definition, no keyword of friend and no scope resolution operator is used. Only normal definition like the data type, return type, the function name, and the argument. So argument is the object of the same class. Here I have used object of class sample. So sample s is passed and it is returning just s dot a plus s dot b divided by 2.0. It is calculating and returning this one. Okay. So in main, I have called, let me write it down in a very congested. Yes. Okay, so this is the program. Yes, in main we have created one object x. So x dot set data. So set data is a member function. So we are calling this thing with an object and dot operator. Okay. So x dot set data, setting a and b as 10 and 20. Like we use the normal member function to define to store the value for this a and b. Okay, and after that we are calling this one mean x. So cout mean equals to mean x. So you see here no object is used to call them the friend function. Okay, so friend is out of the class, out of the class's scope. It is not a member of the class. So as it is not a member of the class, it is not used, it is not using object to call it. Okay, so we are not using object to call the friend function directly. We will be calling it mean and we are passing this x. We are passing an object. So here an object s is passed. So x is of sample type. So it is passed and then x will be mapped to s and s dot a means x dot a, s dot b means x dot b. Okay, so they will be added and divided and return the value. So here mean will be printed with this returned value. Whatever the mean function returns,
Ma'am,
it will be printed. Yes. Yes.
so friend functions are basically functions that are defined, whose prototypes are defined within the class
Ha,
itself,
ha, ha.
but they're not a member function.
Yes, yes. It,
Ma'am, then what,
they are
ma'am,
defined
why do I need
inside,
friend
they
function?
are defined, they are declared inside the class, but they are defined outside the class and as a normal function. Yes, your confusion.
Ma'am, can't we define them inside the class itself?
Friend function. Huh? We can define them. Inside the class also we can define them. For simplicity, for making you understand, I have written this thing, but you can define it inside also.
Is it
Defining,
the
you can define it, it can be defined anywhere in the C++ program. It is written. It can be defined anywhere. Okay. But it is not in the class. It is not a member of the class. That means whenever you writing, sorry, whenever you writing something as friend with this keyword friend, it becomes a friend function. It no longer belongs to the member of this class. I'm coming to, I'm showing you one more example that then you will understand this thing. Okay, let me tell you this thing. So it is not in the, these are some of the rules. It is not in the scope of the class. So it cannot be called using the object of the class that we have already seen. It can be invoked like a normal function without the help of any object. Okay. It cannot access the members directly. It cannot access the members directly. Rather, it need to use the object name with the dot operator with each member name. Okay, so this fourth point is very essential. So I told you that it has objects as its arguments. It is passing objects as its arguments. Okay, why it is passing object as its arguments? It is mentioned here that it cannot access the members directly. That means even if it is a friend function, you cannot directly use A and B inside menu. You cannot call them directly. A and B is always called with the object. That rule remains same, because you cannot call the data members without using objects. You need to call the data members with the objects. Okay, you need to call these data members with the objects B and A. They cannot be called directly. A plus B divided by 2.0 will not work. A and B, as they are the data members, they are always called using the objects, and you need to pass that object. Reference to that object need to be passed. Okay, so we are passing this object. Why? Because the friend function cannot directly access A and B. It cannot directly access the data members. It need to use the object name with dot operator with each member name. Okay, so it can be declared either in public or private section of the object, or it can be defined anywhere. There is no restriction. Okay, so let me show you one more. I'm skipping these two slides. Let me show you one more example. Okay, so in this example, this is a very simple example of using two classes. So till now we have not used two classes. Here I am using two classes. Okay, so my aim is, there is a class called ABC and class called XYZ. Okay, so my aim is to take one private data member from here and one private data member from this XYZ, and we will be checking which one is maximum. Okay, whether this data member or this data member. Okay, so you see this one. First time I have written something class ABC and then semicolon. There is no class declaration here. Class declaration, no member function definition, nothing is here. Okay, and after that I have defined this class XYZ. After defining XYZ, I have declared the class ABC. Okay, so this is why we have declared this thing. This is called forward declaration. Means if there is some situation occurs when we need to use the two class names inside any one class. Okay, we need to use two classes and we need to declare these. We need to use these two class names inside the class. That time compiler will not acknowledge the presence of the first one. Okay, if you are not doing this forward declaration, so this, whenever we are writing this thing, so here you can see in this definition, class definition XYZ, here there is one data member X, one normal member function that is initializing X with I, and one friend function which is having this keyword friend, this return type void, name is max, and which is passing objects of XYZ and ABC. So when the compiler, if you're not writing this line, say if you're not writing this line, so when the compiler compiles this and comes to this line, it will not acknowledge the presence of ABC. Okay, you can say that I'll be defining ABC beforehand and then I'll be using it. Okay, if I can do that, okay, that is fine. But here you see in ABC also, if you shift this particular portion of code upward, okay, rather writing down this line, if you shift it upward, there also there is a class mentioned XYZ and ABC. So XYZ, then the compiler will not acknowledge XYZ because XYZ not defined before definition of ABC. Okay, so if this kind of situation occurs when you need to use one or more than one classes, more than one or two classes or three classes, etc., and if you need to mention those class names inside this program, that time maybe in the friend function or any other function. Okay, so if normally it is the friend function, so in the friend function if you need to mention, so that time we need to do this forward declaration. Okay, so this is a very important point. It is not related to friend function or anything. Okay, just it is related to if you are using two or more classes in the program. Okay, so the compiler need to acknowledge the presence of ABC. So for that, we need to write down this one. So it signifies, this forward declaration actually signifies that you can use ABC. There is a class called ABC whose definition is which we have declared here, but whose definition is not here. It is there somewhere else in the program. Later section you can find the definition. So it is saying the compiler that for now you just consider there is a class declared ABC whose definition is there just after some time, okay, after some lines. So compiler will acknowledge this ABC and also this one. Okay, now coming back to the program. So here you can see the class XYZ and class ABC almost they are same. XYZ is having one private data member X, and ABC is having one private data member that is A. Okay, and in both the functions, in both the class definitions, we have included the common friend function. So I have told this thing that they are friendly to both the classes. So here we want to bridge between these two classes, XYZ and ABC. So what actually we want? We want to fetch X and fetch A will be checked with which one is maximum. Okay. So we'll be maintaining all the rules related to friend function. So friend function, they passes the object of any class. Okay. They cannot directly access this X or they cannot directly access this A. That's why they need to pass the object. Object means object of ABC or object of XYZ. So whatever object will be passed, they are of type XYZ and ABC. So that's why the type is written here. Okay. And next comes the definition of the friend function. So normal definition without using any scope resolution, without using any friend keyword. Normal definition. Here I have just taken the object of XYZ as M and ABC as N. Then we are checking M dot X and N dot A. So these object are passed using the friend function. So friend function, they uses this object name M to access X. They are not accessing X directly. Okay, always remember that one. Friend function needs objects as its arguments, and then it is just checking M dot X with N dot A, which one is larger, and then it is returning that one. Sorry, it is displaying that one. Okay, and in main what we are doing, we are just creating the objects ABC. Small ABC is the object of capital ABC and small xyz is the object of capital XYZ. And with set value, normally we are initializing A. Normally we are initializing A and X. Okay. A and X is initialized. X and A is initialized with this set value. So 10 and 20 is initialized and we are passing this small ABC and small XYZ. So whenever we are passing this small xyz, small xyz is actually an object of capital XYZ class, which is mapped into this M. So M dot X means actually small xyz dot X and N dot A means small ABC dot A, whose value is 10 and 20. Okay. So I think this part you understand how to pass the object and how to return, how to pass the object and how to display their values. Okay. So the main objective of the friend function is, you see, they are taking this, they are taking the access of this X, which is a private data member. Also, they are taking the access of this A, which is also a private data member. So it is a private data member. So XYZ, class XYZ and class ABC, both are having private data member X and A. So what they are doing, they are accessing these private data members with this max function and they are checking which one is maximum with this max function. So this friend function bridge between these two classes. It is bridging between these two classes. They are accessing the private data members as well as they are comparing. Okay. So these are the situations. These are some of the situations where we need to access the private data members. So private data members can be accessed by using a friend function, provided the friend function is passing objects as its arguments, so that the object name can be used. Object name can be used to access the data member. With dot operator, you can access the private data member. Okay. So just you need to remember the rules related to the access specifiers and the rules related to something you are passing. When you are passing some arguments, what are the rules? Function rules. Normally whenever we pass anything, we try to match their data type. Whatever we are passing, we need to write down the data type and we need to match the variable with that data type that we are passing. That you need to mention here. Okay, that you need to means remember here, because we are not passing integers, we are not passing floats here, we are passing object of the class. That's why its type is class type. So that's why it is written xyz, not int or float, etc. Okay, so we are passing it. And lastly, the friend function. Okay, so the friend function is bridging between these two classes. So this is one of the many uses of friend function. Okay, but the rules remain same for all the uses. In the operator overloading, you can find, and during operator overloading, we'll be writing the operator overloading function. Okay, the operator overloading function, they can be of two types. They can be of member function or they can be friend function. Okay, so in some places, the friend function is mandatory for operator overloading. Like just a simple example I'm telling. Say A, B, and C are the objects of same class. Okay. Now, if we want this type of thing, A equals to B plus C, that is, we want to add the object. Like normally we use int AB, int say ABC. Okay, and if I do this thing, A is equal to B plus C, that means this the integer variables are added and stored here in A. So similarly to this, if we consider a class called, say, class called item ABC. Okay, so these are the object of item class. So if we can do the similar things like we do in with the built-in data types, if we can do with the user defined data types B plus C, so that time we need to overload this plus operator. We need to say we need to make the compiler understand this plus need to be act in which way. Okay, so we will be telling this thing through some operator overloading function. That means we will be defining this plus operator. For the compiler, we will be defining explicitly about this plus operator. So that time this operator definition is known as operator overloading function. Okay, so we'll be defining its meaning. Overloading means particular thing is having multiple use. So with the normal built-in data types, the use is known. But for the user defined data type, the user plus operator or any other operator is not known. So we need to define them. That's why in the operator overloading function, we need to define this plus operator, minus operator, any so many operators are there that we can overload and can define. So that function definition can be of member function definition, member function of type, or can be of friend function type. Okay, so there are certain rules related to it. Okay, you'll when we'll be coming to this thing, it will be it will be discussed in a detailed manner. Okay, so there are some situation where friend function is mandatory. Without friend function, we cannot do those cannot handle those situations. Okay, so this is the use of friend function, a very simple use of friend function, that is it can bridge between the two classes, and just you need to remember the different characteristics of it. Okay, if there is any confusion, you can ask me questions.
Ma'am, could you just go to the slide where you defined the classes, ma'am, XYZ?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am, here.
Yes. Yeah.
Ma'am, so we can see in the friend function, it is accepting objects of type XYZ and ABC. Ma'am, is it because of that we are required to define the friend function twice, like in the class of XYZ, along with that we are defining it in class ABC. So is it because of that?
Yes. Both the means we need to access both of them. Na? That's why we need to define them twice. Means if you are not defining it inside XYZ, only you are defining inside ABC. That time it will not take that one. Na? It will not consider this one. Consider the XYZ.
Acha. So if we are requiring three classes,
That
let's
we
suppose.
need to define them.
Acha.
We need to define them in that manner.
Ma'am, could you just go to the features of the friend function slide, ma'am, once? Ma'am, in the second, ma'am, in third point, ma'am, it does not need to access the members directly. Like, is it for all cases or just for the cases where we are accessing private functions, ma'am?
Functions or private data member.
So private data members, private functions, ma'am. Only then do we have to access objects, use objects as dot
Yes,
operator.
yes.
Otherwise, we can just directly call it,
Means
right?
no. Whenever you want to access the data members, okay, then data members can only be accessed with the object name, because if you are not using any object name, the data member, how you will be called?
Okay.
Huh? That
Acha.
time you need the object name.
Okay.
That is why the object name and dot operator is required. Okay, means you cannot access the friend function, cannot access them directly.
Okay. Oh,
That's
yes,
why
ma'am.
these objects they are passing. Okay, so indirectly they're passing the object, and then they are calling this data member with this object, because data members can only be called with the object. Okay, but for other members, like not members, they will not be membered that time. If you don't want to access anything using object name, then they are not data members. If they are data members, they can only be accessed with the object names, isn't
Okay.
it?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
But there are scenarios where the friend function can pass normal data type as well as the objects. There are scenarios.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Anything else?
Ma'am, friend function can access both data members as well as member functions also, both public and private.
Public private thing is not mandatory with the friend function, because it can be declared anything anywhere in the public or private section. It is not within the class. It is not within the class's scope. That means it doesn't belong to the class. So it is of no meaning where you are declaring it, whether it is you are declaring it private or public. Okay, and friend function, they access the data members, for they are specially used to access the data members. Okay, for the member function, do you require to access anything? Because the member functions are normally written in the public section. Okay, and if some member function is written in the private section, then you can use nesting of classes, because functions are more flexible, data are more restricted. Normally data members are more restricted, they are hidden in the class with the private specifiers. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Both can be accessed, right?
Both can be accessed by which? Friend function.
Yes, ma'am. Friend function.
This I have discussed. You understand this thing, na? This thing. Private member function. You understand this thing, na? What is private member function? So if something is private, then you can access it using the nesting of member function. Why means in which situation, you tell me, in which situation it is required to access the private data members using friend function, private member functions using friend function? Is there any situation, any such situation that you need to access them? There are restrictions means there are restriction in access of the data members. That's why we can access that. We cannot access the data members directly outside the main. You can directly access them outside main. Only you need to access them by the member function that are written in the public section. Again, they are the member function. They can only access, but the outside member function cannot access. So friend function is normally meant for the data members. It is not required to access the member functions using friend function. Is there any such situation where it is required? If you find any such situation, then you tell me if you find any such situation. Okay. My point is we have two things, that is data members and the member functions. If all the data members and member functions are written in the public section, there is no restriction of accessing them. You can directly access them from main. Okay. Now, if we declare the data member in the private section, then there are restrictions because something is written in the private section cannot be accessed from main directly. Okay. They can be accessed by some functions that is written in the public section, and then we can access them. Okay. So for the data members, if we want to access them by the member functions, public member functions, then also there is a restriction. Their scope is within that class. You cannot use outside of this class. You can use them by the member function of the same class. But if this kind of situation,
class করছি
what is this? Please switch off your microphones. Okay. So whenever you have this kind of situation, that there are some data members which are private and you need to access them, you need to compare them with other private data members. This type of situation, we are comparing XYZ and ABC's data members. That time it is you cannot do it with any member function, because member function can access particular one class data member from the same class to which it belongs. So there must be some common function which is having the flexibility to access the data members for different classes. That's why we have introduced this friend function. Now, if any data member function is made as private and we want to access it, we can access them by the concept of this nesting. We can access the private member functions by the public member function of the same class. Now, my question is there any situation where you need to access the private member function through the friend functions? Is there any situation? Your question is private member function. Can we access private member functions and private data members both with the friend function? But is it required? That is my question.
I was just trying to explore what else friend function can do.
Yeah, the friend function can do so many things, but is it required? That is my question. That private member function need to be accessed with friend function, or it can be accessed normally with the member function, nesting of member function by some private member functions. It is enough to access them with private member function. If there is any kind of situation where you need to access, where you need to use friend function, one of the situation is you can have private data members and you need to access them with the friend function. But member functions are not required, private member functions. You can anyways, you can call it. You check this thing, you can call it, but you need to maintain all these things, like you are passing something, na? And then you are calling one member function from the friend function. You check this thing, whether it is giving any error or not. You try to write down some code and share the code with me. Okay. Means I want you to check the feasibility. Okay. So, okay. So if anybody is having any more query. So today I'm stopping here. Okay. And tomorrow the class will be taken by Dr. Nondi, Subroto Nondi, and I think he will be starting with pointers and references maybe. I'm not sure about it. And regarding the Moodle class, I have already informed them, and the Moodle course will be created, and I'll be informing you after creation. Okay.
Ma'am, have you already uploaded these slides or will you upload them today, ma'am? I'm not really
Which
sure.
slide? Which slide? This slide.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Acha, are you not getting my slides? I have yesterday. I have.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. It is there in the team.
Huh, it is there in the team, and also this CSC 404. I have shared the this discussion, means this video, as well as the slide.